She looks very awesome. I have one for help. I have one for help. You are the wonderful help. Yeah, that is a partial compliment. No, it isn't. Just give me a heart.
I can see the lab and
Hmm?
I can literally feel your lab
That's the best policy. Whatever, everything was a little crazy. So the upload was a little bit behind, so I apologize for that. But it is uploading.
Thank you.
Was that a shady thank you?
No, it was like a thank you, thank you. I'm not like you. I'm not like you. It was genuine. Papers due today, do you have it with you? I can take it now.
Turn it in online.
Oh.
Is that like,
do you also have a paper copy?
I don't have it right now.
Okay.
I can read it Thursday. But I already turned it in on.
Yeah, if it's online, I'll print it out. All those that needed to re-register for exam 1, have y'all been able to go ahead and do that? Yeah? No issues? show you too.
Oh,
But I forgot.
you forgot. Oh, okay. No problem.
So I'll grade these on the sheet.
That's perfect. Yeah, and I'll give them back on. Thanks. Well, I'm going to be first. But you yeah, your plan. Yeah, and our speaker. Yeah, you can manage that. She's great. Thanks for coming. Do you have the sheet? We don't have that.
I believe you should have them, but I can open them.
No. I just couldn't remember when you gave you put them on my desk. I think you put them on my desk. I just didn't bring them down. I'll go back to class again. I just wanted to be sure I wasn't weird. So I got that. Okay, great. Stuff going on this morning.
All right.
Oh, where'd that come from? Oh, I bet they took mine from over there. I don't know. Anybody hungry? Anybody like goldfish? I got original. You want me to start with that? I got flavor blasted extra cheddar. Who wants that? Start with those. Take some, pass them on. I've got flavor blasted cheesy pizza. Who wants that? Okay, you're gonna pass those back. And then look, don't eat all these because I'm gonna give them to the other class. And then I've got gingerbread snacks that are awesome. Who wants them? You gonna start with those? Okay. All right. Yeah. They're just on it. We got okay, and then I got I got the original. Oh, all right. Here we go. We'll get to you. We'll get to everybody else. And then I've got two open bags, but I promise they were poured out like this instead of like this. These are pizza. In the back, I'm gonna throw them to you. Get you ready? You gonna catch it? You sure? Woo! Oh! She tipped it. So no pass interference. These are almost gone. Who wants the sour cream and onion? I got sour cream and onion. Oh, you didn't know. Who wants those? Here, finish these off. Oh, you got some others. Yeah, don't leave any whatchamacallits on the floor. All right. What's this? Live fish. What is that?
From the previous class.
Aha! Well, we're gonna move it over here.
I like fishes.
So what are you ready to do this weekend? Don't everybody speak at once. How'd you do this weekend? What'd you do? Nothing? You guys need to get a life. What's up? What'd you do? Yeah. Your best friend turned 21. Do you guys still go out when somebody turns 21 and just get a house party? That's better. Do you guys still do Jello shots? Occasionally you do that nasty lime Jello and vodka or gin. That's nasty stuff you guys do. Yeah, my generation was so much better at stuff like that. Not really. Yeah, everybody's got to come of age, right? So what do you guys think about, you got to be 21 now to buy tobacco and vaping? But how many of you like that? Really? Okay. All right, well that's good, interesting. All right, cool. Anybody do anything exciting this weekend? Besides the 21 thing, that was exciting, right? You didn't turn 21. Are you already 21? You're 21? You're not 21. How many of you are 21? Okay, and how many of you are sad about being 21? Huh, oh yeah, right, okay. A couple of people that are pretty smart. All right, well, today we're going to wrap up our conversation around restaurants. So just as we did with hotels, we looked at on last Thursday, we looked at the franchising concept of hotels. We looked at the development of hotels, the different types of hotels. Just like we did with hotels, we looked at the internal structure of hotels. Now we're going to look at the internal infrastructure and operation of restaurants. That's our plan today. Chapter 7. Everybody on board? Okay. Posts are looking good. Everybody keep those up. We're on target. Now, couple of logistical items first. Thursday, you do not have to prepare for class. There's not a chapter due, so you got a little break. Yes? Say yes. Okay, so you're excited about that. You can't talk because you've got a mouthful of goldfish. Okay. Now, but Thursday's class is a really important class for you. I am not going to test you on the material. I am going to take attendance. Actually, Osese is going to take attendance because we think it's really crucial that you get this information. The university supports some resources to assist you in learning about financial literacy. What does it mean when you take out a loan? How long will it take to pay that off? If you put a $6 pizza on your credit card today and you don't pay it off for 6 years, you're going to pay $89 for that pizza. It's going to talk about different ways to budget. It's going to give you some insight around the financial aspects, both personally and for academia. This will be the third time I think we've done that in this class, and I can tell you that the students all recommended that we continue to do it. And I'll ask you what you think as well. So Jacqueline will be with you on Thursday. I hope you're here. I think you'll find it to be very worthwhile. You should understand the resources that are available for you and utilize them. We talked about scholarships. Now we're going to talk about managing your money and make informed choices before you borrow that money. And I think it will really help you. One of the key ways to reduce stress in lives is to be organized and to reduce debt. So I hope you'll take that to heart. And with regard to debt, always remember, it's never about how much money you make that matters. It's always about how much money you spend. Always. I know a lot of people that make a whole lot of money and they can't pay attention. They are broke because they spend way more than they earn. That is your choice. Who has total control over that? You do. That's the key. Got it? All right, good. Then we're going to pick back up next week on Tuesday with Chapter 8, where we're going to talk about managed services. What's a managed service? Anybody read ahead? Give me an example. You're living it right here, right now. At the university. Does the university operate the food and beverage products here at the university? No. They contract with a what? Think about hotels. What do we if you don't know how to operate a hotel but you own a hotel, who are you going to hire? Third-party management company. That's exactly what a lot of businesses do with food and beverage operations. There are operators out there that have expertise in food and beverage, and so, like the university, stadiums, prisons, schools, yes? Big businesses, they will contract with a third party that has that expertise to install and operate the food and beverage system. It's a science. You need people that know what they're doing. We'll talk more about that. But can you give me an example of one branded company that makes a big living doing third-party food and beverage? Sodexo is one. Very good. Another one would be Aramark. So, when you're reading the chapter, spend some time looking at those businesses because there are substantial career opportunities for you with those businesses. How many of you have worked for Aramark or Sodexo? Anybody? Yeah? At a stadium? Here at the university? At the museum? There you go. Another opportunity for third-party food service management. Thank you. Great example. The zoo, the Olympics, things like that. So, some real cool opportunities. All right, good. Let's get into chapter... Yes, ma'am? That's such a good question. The answer is... no. She's internal to the university. If they're internal guests, I typically don't ask you to do that. Yeah. All right. I think we've got everybody situated on the exam. I know the rain was challenging. And I appreciate all of those that made the effort to be here on Thursday. I know not everybody could make it, and I hope your homes are safe and your families are safe. And I appreciate everybody's effort. That was quite a remarkable storm we had. Who got the most rain? Where'd you live? Houston got 16 inches. What'd you get? Kingwood, how many? Oh. Kingwood flood? Isn't Kingwood like flat? How's it flood? Because it's flat, I guess, right? Water doesn't go anywhere. Anybody live out in Winnie, Texas? Did you see how many inches of rain Winnie, Texas got? Does anybody know? Has anybody ever heard of Winnie, Texas? I had never heard of Winnie, Texas. Now everybody can't stop talking about Winnie, Texas. It's halfway between here and Beaumont, something like that. They got 46 inches of rain, the map that I saw. Think about that. 46, some of you aren't even 46 inches tall. Think about how 46 inches, that's a lot of rain, right? That's like, is it ever going to stop? Yeah, I don't know what we had with Harvey, but that's a lot. Okay. Well, I'm glad everybody's safe. So, in the textbook, in this chapter, there is a very cool checklist for a mystery shopper. What's a mystery shopper? Somebody that shops mystery? Yes! We'll do a duo thing here. What do you got? Yes, ma'am. It's somebody that comes in undercover. In other words, anonymously, secretly. That's why they call it a secret shopper. Nobody knows they're coming, and they come in and they shop the restaurant. Yeah? Can you take it further? Oftentimes it is a third-party vendor. It could be somebody that works for the company. Can you understand why a third-party vendor might be better? No bias, right? No inherent bias. They're not getting pressure from anyone. But can you understand why that third-party relationship needs to be arm's length? What does that mean? So, for instance, if I came into your restaurant and your general manager's promotion and raise depended upon these mystery shopping scores, right? And let's say I wasn't a very ethical mystery shopper, and I said, hey, Carson, you're the GM. Dude, I'm going to bring about 30 friends in here next week. And, oh, by the way, I'm the guy that does your mystery score. Carson goes, you're going to bring 30 friends in here? Cool, I'm going to take care of you. Great, I'll take care of you. Do you think that happens? Sadly, it happens. And it happens in sanitation inspections, it happens in health inspections, it happens in that. You realize that people can die when those types of situations occur, right? Because if the sanitation inspector lets things slide, or it happens with, we talked about the liquor liability. Do you remember how old do you have to be to serve in Texas? 18. How old do you have to be to consume? 21. So here's what happens. I go into a bar, and let's say I'm 19, and this actually happened, and the 18-year-old does exactly what she's supposed to do. She says, hey, can I get your ID? And he says, well, here's the thing. I'm not 21 and I don't have a fake ID, but I run a sports bar outside of town. If you'll serve me while I'm here, I will serve you and your friends when you come to my place. So what happens? So they make that deal. So he gets served, but then she comes out with two of her friends out to the sports bar out near out on 45 North, and they proceed to drink about 12 beers and 6 shots. and she's 18 years of age. And one of her friends offers to drive her home, but he's as drunk as she is. He runs off the road, and as almost always happens, the drunk walked away without a scratch, but she was drunk as well, and she died. A one-car accident. So these types of arrangements that seem really cool lead to serious consequences. So how do you avoid that type of mystery shopping connection and bias? You use a third party, and what else? You make sure that it's never the same person that goes back to that restaurant over and over and over again. Or you make it multiple people, because it's very difficult to corrupt more than one person at a time. The odds are somebody's going to have an ethical foundation. You see that? I also bring up mystery shopping because it's a great career if you're interested, both on the restaurant side and the hotel side. Has anybody in here heard of Deloitte? Deloitte is one of the big 4 accounting firms and consulting companies in the world. Fabulous company to work for. And they have just bought a significant hotel mystery shopping company. So you travel around to different hotels, you shop the hotel, their customer service, their cleanliness, their culture, their management style, right? And that's your job. You get to go all over the world and see places, and it's a very cool thing. Restaurants, not quite so glamorous, but it's still an interesting way to make a living, and you can do that while you're in school. So there's a former alum here that has a company like that. So you can just Google restaurant mystery shopping or hotel mystery shopping, and it's a cool thing. But I also bring that checklist up for you because that's a great checklist for you to understand what's important in a restaurant, right? We typically measure what's important. Well, that's what we're measuring. So all of those customer service things that we're measuring, that's how you deliver good customer service. So check that list out and focus on that, whether it's your own restaurant or whether you go to work at a restaurant. Everybody good? Okay, let's rock and roll. What do we call that concept? There you go, mystery shopping. Okay, now, the next thing the book talks about is they talk about the front of the house and the back of the house. And the more I thought about it, I'm not sure we spent enough time on the hotel side talking and distinguishing between the front of the house and the back of the house. F-O-H, front of house. B-O-H, back of house. In a hotel, let's start with that. Well, actually, somebody define for me, if you can, the front of the house and the back of the house. Give me the criteria point. Yes, ma'am. And your name is? Abigail. You're exactly right. That is perfect. You're going to add to it, tweak it, polish it up a little bit? Would you agree the back of the house tends to support the front of the house? That's a fair? Okay, she likes that amendment. It's a friendly amendment. All in favor, say? Very good. All right. Unanimous. Great, ladies. That's exactly what it is. If I may rephrase and just correct me if I'm wrong, but the front of the house typically is front-facing, dealing with the customers. Yeah. The back of the house typically are the functions that support the front of the house. As Abigail pointed out, sometimes they do interact with the guest. Give me an example of that. Yes? The chef comes out to a table to check on it, yeah? Or you have a chef's table. What's a chef's table? In a kitchen, at a restaurant. You ever seen a chef's? The chef's table is where you're either in the kitchen or you are sitting at a counter overlooking the kitchen so you can watch the operation and it enhances your experience. Then you'd encounter not just the chef, but others. Very good example. It's another example of the hotel where you might encounter a guest. Yes? Going in to repair the TV, the AC system. Very good. Another one. Room service. Good. Another one. Housekeeping. Exactly. How often do you encounter housekeepers? Raise your hand. All the time. Yeah. Okay. How many of you want to be a housekeeper for the rest of your life? Raise your hand. You know what that tells you? That tells you that the most important position at a hotel is what? Housekeeping. And the people that do that deserve your utmost respect and attention. And now you should understand why. Yes. You got a good housekeeper. You want to protect them, save them, nurture them. They are the heart. Yes. The whole industry is kind of shifting. It used to be, globally, housekeeping every single day. But what began to dilute that? Sustainability on towels and sheets, which is a little bit of a hypocrisy type thing. Why do I say that? Because here's what they do. They put a sign, they put a little card that says, hey, if you want to use your towels again, hang them up, right? If they're on the floor, we'll wash them. Put this card on your bed if you're going to reuse your sheets because you're going to save water and detergent, which I'm all about. We helped Aruba, it was kind of one of the first hotel groups to start that because they had a severe water shortage. But but what do you look for at a hotel to see if they're sincere about that? Are they also conserving in the back of the house? Do the administrative offices recycle paper, plastic, glass, right? Do they conserve electricity? Do they conserve other places of water? Those are things you're looking for. So is it really a sincere sustainability initiative, or is it a marketing gimmick to look green? You always want to ask yourself that. Speaking of ethics. Okay. All right. Back to the front of the house and the back. And let's go to the front of the house and the back of the house at a restaurant. Host or hostess. Front of the house, back of the house. Front of the house. Chef. Typically back of the house. Dishwasher. Server. Expediter. Does everybody know what an expediter does? Expediter is the liaison between the servers and the kitchen. They make sure that the order on a ticket, all the dishes come out at the same time. They also assist with, if somebody orders appetizers, they come out first. Yes. And then you get plenty of space between the appetizers and your entrees. Or your entrees and your dessert if it's all ordered at one time. They also make sure the plates are garnished properly. Yeah? That's what an expediter does. So expediters typically would be back of the house, but how many of you have worked at a restaurant where the expediter runs food also? Okay, so if they run the food, that's going to put them in the front of the house. So they're a bit of a hybrid from time to time. Yeah. Open kitchens are really cool concepts. They're fun. And what's the added benefit of an open kitchen? Think. You see what they're doing? What else do you get to see? Sanitation. I promise you, you see an open kitchen, you're going to see a clean kitchen. Open kitchen, you're going to see a clean kitchen. Anybody here know the name Charlie Trotter? Charlie Trotter was one of the preeminent chefs in the world for 25 years. He was in Chicago. He had a restaurant called Charlie Trotter. He was one of the first chefs to do a lot of farm to table, and everything was fresh. Matter of fact, when you go into his kitchen, there was not a freezer. There was not a big walk-in refrigerator. There was just one reach-in refrigerator. That was it, because they bought everything that day. He would go to the markets, buy it, and then prepare the menu based upon what was fresh. And the menu changed every single day. It was pricey. It was a prefix. What does prefix mean? P-R-I-X-F-I-X-E. Prefix, menu. What does that mean? Set menu. It's fixed. So this, you're going to have so many courses, and this is the price. Not a price per course, a total price. Yeah? So his prefix was typically 9 courses, and the courses aren't large, right? But they're exquisite, and it usually cost about $250 back then. And then if you added wine pairings to it, it would add another $150 or $200 to it. Now, Charlie Trotter was the top restaurant in Chicago, if not the country, for 20 years. How many people, how many organizations, charitable organizations, student organizations, do you think hit Charlie Trotter up for a free gift to auction off and for money-raising ventures? Everyone you can imagine did. Churches, everybody wanted a raffle prize from Charlie Trotter. And it was killing him. So finally, he sat down with his team and said, we got to come up with another method. We just can't keep giving this stuff away, and I hate to say no to people. And they came up with this idea. Hey, let's do a chef for the day. Guest chef. So whoever wins or buys the raffle, they get to come spend the day in our kitchen. And that's what he did. And he didn't have an open kitchen. But what was the consequence of bringing in a chef for the day? Number one, he stopped giving away meals. He had a chef for the day, which created great word of mouth and referrals because they loved it. But what else happened to his kitchen? It became spotless. Absolutely spotless, because why? You're going to have a guest. You're going to have somebody that can go out and tell everybody what did it look like. And they're going to tell them. How, if your mother is coming over to your stay at your apartment, what's the first thing you're going to clean? Your room, your bathroom, your kitchen, right? You are, aren't you? It should be clean anyway. How many of you, if you got a phone call right now from your mother, would have to rush home and clean your house? Raise your hand. Well, you need to do a better job of it all the time. How many of you make your bed every single day when you wake up in the morning? Raise your hand. You need to make your bed every single day. Why do they do that in the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines? Why do they make their bed every first thing in the morning, first thing they do when they wake up? Why do they do that? Because you've accomplished something every single day. No matter what else happens the rest of the day, you've achieved one goal. That's a cool thing. That's why they do it. Yeah. All right. I don't charge extra for that kind of stuff. I just throw it in there. Okay. So, back of the house, front of the house, you need to understand the two differences. Yep. And everybody got it now. Yep. You understand how it works, why it happens. Okay, let's go back to the back of the house just real quick on the hotels to make sure we're clear, because she mentioned support. Give me an example of the back of the house people that support the front of the house people at a hotel. We mentioned housekeeping, we mentioned maintenance. 2 good examples. Who else? HR, human resources, supports the front of the house at a hotel. Who else? What about accounting? Do they support the front of the house? Today it's IT, the information technology people support the front of the house. Yeah? All right. Does everybody in here remember what a PMS system is? PMS, Property Management System. That's the computer, this digital system that monitors reservations, charges at the hotel. Often it manages labor, right? Check in, check out, when people punch in, punch out to work. Manages lots of stuff. Okay? Average daily rate, revenue per available room. That device, depending upon the software, can really give you a whole lot of data and help you a lot. What is the similar system in a restaurant? POS, point of sale. Point of sale, where people come up to pay. It's the point of sale. We used to call it a cash register. Now we've gotten hoity-toity, and we call it a point of sale system. Where does a sale take place? Yep, Okay, so that system in a restaurant does what? Tracks charges by the guests, right? Clears charges when money is received. What else does a point of sale system do at a restaurant? Keeps inventory. Should be able to track. I sold 18 hamburgers today, right? My par hamburger inventory is 36. I sold 18. How many do I need to order for tomorrow? Say 18. Thank you. All right. Yeah. It can track payroll. What else can it do for you? What about our sanitation certifications important? Yeah, it's the law that somebody on the job, or almost all of you in different locales, you have to be certified in sanitation, appropriate sanitation. You guys will have that when you get out of your sanitation class. I think we still do that, don't we? And we do that. But when is that going to expire? And who's responsible for tracking that? Well, you should. But if you own a restaurant and you have somebody working for you that's not certified in serve-safe practices, and you get an E. coli outbreak, who's going to be responsible for that ultimately? Are you going to blame the person in the kitchen that didn't do their certification? Well, you can, but is that going to help? No. So who does it help the most to track the expiration of those certifications? You. And so you have to do that. So you implement all that in your POS system. And they'll track it for you. And then an alert will come up. And it'll say, hey, in 60 days, these 10 people are going to expire. And that way you get time to down. And then what you should program it is if they don't recertify, if it's up to them to go find the education recertify, which I don't recommend, but if it is, what else do you program into the system? If it expires, you don't get to clock in. You don't work. Right? And it's the same thing with alcohol certification, responsible servers of alcohol certifications. Any certification you should track in these systems. It gives you the ability to do it. Use it. How many of you are familiar with this concept called Hot Schedule? Hot Schedule is an online, in the cloud scheduling platform. It's cool. It makes life so much easier for servers and everybody in the restaurant. Right? This way, if Carson and I are working and I call up Carson and say, hey, dude, I'm hungover, I can't work today. Carson goes, that's great, I have to pay rent tomorrow and I need to pick up the shift. Great. So Carson's going to work for me. And then Carson doesn't show up. Who's responsible? Who's going to get clobbered? Me, because I didn't show up, right? But Carson didn't get there to take my place. Okay, but hot schedules, there would be a record of it. It would be clear. It would say, Carson's agreed to pick up my shift. Now who's responsible? Thank you, Carson. But the other thing you can do with hot schedules is you can also track certifications. You can put in reminders. You can do these things. So the technology is out there today to use, and you're learning a lot about technology also that we use in restaurants. I hope in your technology classes, right? Give me an example of technology that helps us a lot in a restaurant. Yes, sir, ma'am. Sorry. Excel. Excel is like a second language today. You need to be fluent in Excel. Yes, sir. Open Table is a great piece of technology that assists us. What else? Does everybody understand Open Table? Reservation platform, online, in the cloud reservation platform. What else? Does everybody understand Excel? Spreadsheet. You do a lot of mathematical functions with it automatically. You can slice and dice data, give you great information. Okay, what else? Yes, sir? Macros, which does? Did you say macros or micros? With an I. Okay. It's a POS system. Yep. Name another brand of POS system. Aloha is another POS system that does that, competitor of Micros. Okay? Good. Give me another example. Come on, you guys go. Oh, yeah. They got the kiosk out front. You do that. You don't have to pull up. Who does that better than anybody? Panera? How many of you ever driven through Panera Bread? Can you drive through Panera Bread? Oh, they have a little kiosk. Oh, out front. They started that. They did where you self-order. No, they did do that. I agree. Okay. I was like, do we drive through Panera? Okay. They do? Panera? How many of you like Panera? It's so good. Yeah. All right. Well, that's good. I like that. But who does the drive-through better than anybody? See, it's crazy, right? You can learn. You're going to go out and do quick serve. Who are you going to model after? Chick-fil-A. Don't model after Burger King. Right? All right. Well, come on. We're missing some big ones. What else you got? Technology. How are they going to help you? Think legal, safety, security. What? Chris? They'll give you a buzzer, right? Or they're going to give. Now they don't even do that. They'll give you what they want. They take your cell phone, and they just plug it in their cloud system, and it does it automatically. They hit a button, and boom. But you're exactly right. They did that. But those holding on to things are now they're kind of obsolete, right? Yeah, exactly. What else? Yes, ma'am. Mobile orders. I like that. What else? Yes. To order on the iPads. You've been to the airport lately, IAH? You can only order via an iPad. And you can pay with points. You can pay with your United points if you want to. How much are points worth? What? You haven't figured out that points have a value? United points, you should go online and go to thepointsguy.com. He tracks the value of all these points. United points are worth about 2.5 cents a point. That's important to you because that way you know if it's a $500 ticket, right, or 25,000 points, you can do the math and figure out if it's better to bless you, if better to pay for it or better to use your points. You figured that out, right? Well, you have now. Okay. Yeah. Uber Eats, Favor, all kinds of. Hey, a lot of restaurants today are surviving off of curbside or food delivery. It's big time. Lots of dough there, but you're missing some others. Come on. What else? Inside the restaurant. What else does technology help us do? I just gave you a hint about your sanitation class. What does technology help us do? Will it alert us when the refrigerator temperature goes down to a critical temperature? It will. It'll set off an alarm. Same thing with your freezer. That's big. We used to not know if the freezer went down until we got there in the morning and water was pooled outside the door. That's not a good thing. Today, you'll know within seconds. Now you can get somebody over there to repair it. Now, it's cool stuff what's going on. It makes your life so much easier, but you have to use the tool. You have to use the tool. All right. Now, what else does this book talk about? I shouldn't have to bring this up. What else is this chapter about? Forecasting. Very cool. You even did it kind of in order. That's great. So we got forecasting. What does forecasting mean and why is it important? Somebody over here that took, if you took some of the goldfish, you got to respond in class. That's not fair. I didn't make that deal up front. Yes, ma'am. That's exactly right. So we're looking ahead to see what we're going to do. And she said in a year, but can we also forecast in shorter periods? So I can forecast a day. Sometimes it's that important. If there's going to be a big event, if the Super Bowl's in town, do you think you need to forecast every day? Okay, what am I thinking about? Why do I forecast? What does it help me do? Yes, sir. Tell me what PAR is. My PAR inventory, my PAR stock, right? Number of items I have, all of my menu items and ingredients that I need to serve. I need to make sure that my PAR stock is right. What else? Staffing, my labor. Look, if I'm going to be slow, do I want to bring in a bunch of people and have to pay them? No, it's a science. It's very hard to predict how many people to put on the floor. Running a busy restaurant, people go, running a busy restaurant must be hard. Running a busy restaurant is easy. You just staff to the gills, Make sure your processes work and open the door. Running a slow restaurant is hard. Because then you have to staff, and you've got to cut people, and you've got to predict, and forecasting becomes absolutely crucial. So it's a real science. And you've got to manage your labor. What's one of the key costs? We call it a prime cost in running a restaurant. Food, cost of beverages, cost of labor. Those are your three prime costs. Big time. And you've got to manage that. Because you can go broke with your labor quickly. That's good. So thus we need to know what our sales, we need to know what, so forecasting, we're trying to predict what our sales are going to be. We're trying to predict how many customers are going to come through the door for lunch tomorrow and for dinner, right? Or for brunch on Saturday, brunch on Sunday. Because I need to know how much food to have on hand. I need to know how many people to have working, whether it's in the back of the house or the front of the house. Okay? Ooh. What do I look at? What are the criteria we use for forecasting? Mia, can you help us? Very cool. So we've got a couple of variables that we look at. Guest count. Number of guests we've done. Historically on this date, right? On Mondays, we typically do 100 guests. Right? So if I'm forecasting for the next Monday and for the last 20 Mondays, and the weather doesn't look bad, and there's not a big event coming in, can I reasonably predict that we're going to do another 100? If I've averaged 100 for the last 20 Mondays, can I reasonably predict that I'm going to do 100 guests this coming Monday? Right, and I know how to staff, and you do that for every single day of the week. Can the weather change your forecasting? Can a big event change your forecasting? Private parties can change your forecasting. Okay? But you just got to take all that in and make some choices around that. And Mia, you mentioned something else. Not just number of guests, but also per person check average. We call it PPA, per person average. Right? That helps us forecast what? If I know my guest count and I know my PPA, what can I project? My sales revenue, right? If I know I average 200 guests a day throughout the week, and my per person check average is $10 per person, right? That gives me $2,000 a day in revenue. Times 7 gives me $14,000 a week. Right? And if my food cost, bless you, if my food cost is 25%, bless you, if my food cost is 25%, what's 25% of, let's make it 20% easier on our math. What's 20% of 14,000? If my average food cost is 20%, my sales revenue is 14,000. What's my food cost? $2,800. Right? Just 0.20 times 14,000 is going to give you $2,800. Right? What's 1/5 of 14,000? $2,800. All the same. Comes out with the same. You guys get that, right? All right. $2,800, which leaves me how much left out of my 14,000? $11,200, right? Check my math. $11,200, right? You got to take your food cost off, right? I know I'm going to do 14,000 this week, so I'm budgeting. I know my food cost is going to be 20% because that's my average food cost. That's what my menu planning shows me. My standardized recipes are built and created with 20% food cost in mind. So I've got a really good feel. I'm going to project that. So it's going to cost me $28,000 in food, and let's say food and beverage, to generate $14,000 in sales. So I know I got to take that off the top, right? Because I got to pay for that. So that leaves me $11,200. Now what else do I have to take from that? I got to take labor. Let's say my labor cost is about a third. 33%. Okay, what's 33% of 14,000? Let's just round it up. Say labor's 35%, let's make it $5,000. Right? So it cost me $5,000 in labor to generate $14,000 in sales. So I'm down to 11,200. Now I've got to subtract what? 5,000, which leaves me with $6,200. Let's just checking to see if you're listening. $6,200. That's what I got left in cash. Now what do I have to pay from that? I got to pay rent, utilities. Anything else? Don't forget your lawyer. What else you got to pay? Accounting? What else? Maintenance? Anything else? Insurance. Very good. What about your music? Are you going to play music, or is there going to be dead silence in your restaurant? Welcome to the silent restaurant. Got to pay for music. I know you guys don't think you have to pay for music, but you have to pay for music. There's an organization called ASCAP that's going to make you pay for music, or BMI, or CSAC. They represent all the composers and musicians, and they kept their money. You got to pay for that. So yeah, so let's say all of that added up to $3,000. How much do I have left? $3,200. I walked away with $3,200, and then I got to pay what out of that? Taxes. You got to pay taxes. Those would be income taxes, right? Sales taxes and liquor taxes are paid off the top. You collect those separately. Yeah, those are added on taxes. Income taxes you pay out of the money that you have left. Yeah, so you write yourself a check for $3,200, and your accountant says yes, but you owe the IRS for your Social Security and your income taxes. You owe the IRS 40% of that. So out of your $3,200, you pay 40%. That's about $1,200. So you walk away with how much? $2,000 for the week. $8,000 for a 4-week period, if that all goes smoothly. You can live on that, right? Working 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, you're good. But that's how it works. I don't care if you're doing $1 million a week, or $1,000 a week, or $1,000 a day. That's how it works. You have your sales, less your costs, less your labor, less your other costs, right? So your prime costs are food and beverage and labor. Your additional costs, you have your profit, you pay your taxes, and you start all over again. Mia, you also said there was a certain number of, or maybe it was somebody told us there was a certain number of periods that we break restaurant accounting down to. Yes. You said that. Tell me again what it is. 13 periods. Why? Right, because you've got months with 30 days, you've got months with 31 days, and you got one crazy month with like 28 days. Right? So they divide restaurant accounting periods into 4 weeks each. There's 13 of them, because 4 times 30, how many weeks in a year? 52. 4 times 13 is? 4 times 13 is 52. You see how that works? So they break it down to 4. You guys are going to take a whole course on accounting. And you're going to have a uniform system of accounts for restaurants, and a uniform system of accounts for hotels, and a uniform system of accounts for country clubs. That enables us to compare our performance to other people's. We can benchmark, which means compare, right? We can benchmark our performance against others. All right. Does everybody get that? You understand why per person check average is so important? So here's the question. Let's go back. You've told me your name 50 times. You're right next to Vika. Your name is? Wade. Will. It's close. Will. I've got this very cool POS system, right? And you're a manager at the restaurant and Vika's a server. And Vika is taking an order of 6 people at a table.
right? And she takes the order and she walks back to the POS system to enter the order. What's the first thing you want Vika to enter? That's exactly right. The amount of guests. If you don't put the amount of guests in the order, does that screw up the expediter? Number one, does that screw up your per person check average? Yeah, how can you track? You can't if you're not entering into your database the number of guests at each table. Do you see why that's so important? If it's a bartender at the bar, how many guests are waiting in this party? One. Maybe there's two, maybe there's three. Whatever it is, how many orders you're ringing up there, you need to establish it's for how many guests. Otherwise, the whole science goes away. That's one of the key metrics you have to think about in operating your restaurant. The number of guests you're serving so that you can get and determine your per person average. Absolutely crucial, because you're just blindfolded in the forest if you don't have that information. Does everybody see that and why? All right. Let's go back. The book lays out a very helpful, what I call it, cash flow statement. They call it a balance sheet. Do you remember seeing that? It's one of the financial sheets in the book. And it takes you through the process we just did. Sales, less what? This is your accounting function, your basic accounting function for a restaurant. Sales minus food and beverage costs. It's usually two separate costs in your line item. Food cost, beverage cost. Then you subtract from that, well, you get a subtotal. And then you subtract labor, very good. And then you subtract what we call occupancy costs. What are your occupancy costs? Rent, utilities. Let's make sure today you understand that utilities include Wi-Fi. Is Wi-Fi an expense? Big time. Got to have a big pipe coming in to accommodate all your gas. Utilities, insurance. There are several types of insurance. There's liability insurance in case you overserve somebody alcohol or somebody gets food poisoning. What other type of insurance do you need? If the place burns down, you need insurance. Earthquake, flood. What other type of insurance do you need? Health insurance for your employees, although not many restaurants provide that. They might give an option, but you don't typically have that expense. But what else? One very important one around your employees. It's called workers' compensation insurance. Workers' compensation insurance. Every state in the country requires an employer to have what's known as workers' compensation insurance. So if somebody is injured on the job, they don't have to sue their employer to recover money or to get medical care. If you're injured on the job, now I'm going to go back 1 second and clarify something. Every state in the country requires workers' compensation except Texas. Now, Texas requires some sort of insurance, but they allow employers to opt out. It's a very complex legal thing. I don't want to get into it, but I do want you to know that even in Texas, the employer is required to provide some type of insurance. It's just more challenging for the worker if the employer opts out of workers' comp. Workers' comp is a compromise between the government and employers. Back in the 1900s, when the Industrial Revolution was going on, employees were getting injured by machinery, right? We didn't have OSHA. We didn't have safety guidelines. We didn't have all this training around safety. So people were getting injured. Well, if I got injured back then, what was my only recourse? To sue the company, and how long would that take? Oh, it could take years. And in the meantime, am I getting the medical care that I need? Am I able to pay my rent? No. And so who was having to support all of those injured employees? The government, you, your parents, your grandparents, the taxpayers that weren't injured were having to pay for all that. Is that fair? Well, the government didn't think so. So the government said, wait, we need a different process. And the employers said, wait. We're okay with setting up an insurance program, but you've got to give us something in return. So they compromised. So no longer does an employee have to prove the employer was negligent. If the employee is injured on the job, they're injured on the job and they're entitled to workers' compensation payments while they cannot work, and they're also entitled to medical care. And every employer pays into a pool, and that is how we pay for people that are injured in the workplace. But the benefit that the government gave to the employers is they cap the damages. Not medical expenses, those are unlimited until you get well. But in terms of injuries. So there's a schedule in almost every state that says if you lose a finger, this is how much money you get. If you lose a toe, you get this amount of money. If you have a bad back and can't work, and can only work 20 hours a week, this is how much money you get. And so that's the compromise. I'm not saying it's a perfect system. I'm just sharing with you that's the system, and you need to understand that you have to contribute money to those programs if you want to be an employer. And so that's a cost. Now, what I want you to remember when you walk out of here is that we have, in the restaurant business, we have fixed costs, and we have variable, or as the book calls them, controllable costs. Okay? Give me an example of a fixed cost. Another fixed cost means it's the same cost no matter what your sales are. Same cost no matter what your sales are. Yes, sir, give me one. Often, rent can be a fixed cost. An example would be your rent is $3,000 a month, right? No matter what your sales are. But today, landlords are doing what? Landlords are writing leases. This has been going on for the last 30 years. They are writing leases that include percentage rents. In other words, yes, your rent's going to be $3,000, and actually they do it as a percentage. Your rent is going to be a minimum of $3,000 a month, right? Or 5% of your gross sales, whichever is greater. So can you do the math? Where do I have to pay more? At what sales point do I have to pay more rent to the landlord? If my rent is $3,000 a month versus 5% of gross sales, $60,000. The minute you hit $60,000 in gross sales, every dollar of revenue you generate in sales, a nickel of that has to go to the landlord on top of the $3,000 you already paid. Okay? That's the way it works. So it's often fixed, but it's often variable. Do you see why? So rent can be a hybrid. Insurance is typically a fixed cost, your liability insurance. It's maybe $300 a month, $500 a month. So you know it's going to be the same all the time. Your music costs are going to be the same all the time once you figure out what that number is. Yep. Your accounting costs are typically going to be $250, $300 a month, whoever you use to help you with that, your internal bookkeeping. Yeah, those are going to be fixed. What about your utilities? Are they fixed or variable or controllable? Can you control your utility costs? Yeah, by conserving electricity, by conserving water. Will you use more electricity if your sales go up? Yes. Will you use more water? Yes, so those costs are variable or controllable, as the book calls it. Does everybody get that? What about your workers' compensation insurance costs? Fixed or variable? Well, if you're in the insurance business, do you want it to be fixed or variable? If you're running the workers' comp program, do you want it to be variable based on what? How many, not claims, because it's too late then, but that's exactly what you're thinking. But you know what? That's not fair of me to say. Let's get back to that in just a moment. They want it variable because if your payroll starts to go up, when you do more sales, what happens to your payroll? It goes up. More people are working longer hours. Does the risk of injury go up? Well, if the risk of injury goes up, what needs to happen to your premium? The amount you pay to the insurance company for your coverage. It goes up, right? So it's variable based upon your payroll. Are your taxes fixed or variable? Payroll taxes. Variable. Somebody works more hours, they pay more income taxes, they pay more Social Security taxes, the employer's contribution to those taxes go up. Do you guys understand how a payroll check works? Bless you. What gets withheld out of your check? Somebody tell me. 3 different. Social Security, FICA. That's FICA. Social Security. What else? Your income taxes. Yeah. They withhold your income tax, so at the end of the year, you don't have to come up with a bunch of dough. You're paying it as you go, right? Some of you like to get a refund in April, but you realize you've just loaned the money to the government for the last, if you gave it to them in January, you loan the government tax-free money for 13 months. If you wait till April to get it back, right? That's why you want your tax deduction to be accurate. Yeah? People go, I want a great big refund. Well, you get a great... And some people use it as a savings account. But you're not getting interest on that savings, on that money. You'd be better off using that money to pay off a credit card or pay off your debt. Do you see why? Okay. So they withhold that. They withhold Social Security. And then they and then the employer, that comes out of your check. That's your contribution to the system. Then an employer also contributes to your Social Security and to your unemployment taxes, because somebody has to fund if somebody loses their job. We have an unemployment insurance safety net in this country, and employers contribute to that as well. So there you go. That's what's being taken out of your check. Yeah. But who takes it out? Who takes it out? Well, the employer does. They take it out. And so they have your money. And who's responsible for making sure the government gets it? The employer. Those are called trust funds. When an employer pays you a check, are you getting your total gross wages? No. What are you getting? You're getting your net wages. You're getting your total amount that you've earned less the deductions for income taxes, Social Security, right? So let's say, just to make it easy, you've got 10 employees. Each one made $100 in this week, right? So you got 10 employees. They each made $100, so your payroll is $1,000. All of the deductions came out to 25%. So you withheld $250 from their checks in the aggregate. Do you see that? So how much did you pay out actually to the employee? $750. What do you do with that $250? What are you going to do with it? You got to deposit it with the government, and you have to do it in a timely fashion. Now, some restaurants go broke before they make those deposits. Are you going to be happy about that as an employee? No, they took your money. And so we call those trust funds because the employer is personally liable for those funds if they chose to use that money to pay something else, like themselves. Right? And let that be a lesson to you. If you're ever the employer or you go to work at a restaurant and they ask you to sign checks, you make darn sure that those trust funds get deposited with the government. Because if not, and you're the one that's been signing the checks, who's the IRS going to look to recoup that money? You. And that money, that debt is not dischargeable in bankruptcy. Those are called trust funds for a reason. You're keeping that money in trust for your employees. You're not supposed to be using it for anything else. And it's hard not to if you started this restaurant up and you maxed out your credit cards to get it open and operating, right? And you don't have to pay in that payroll deposit for another week. You might want to use it to buy food for tomorrow. And you think, well, I'll just make the money up in the next couple of days. But if it doesn't happen, then you're behind on your payroll taxes, and then you've got real problems. Do you see why? And do you see how that happens? All right. Do you understand the difference between fixed and variable costs? And when I use the term variable, you need to think in the book they use the term controllable, right? Because they're controllable. You don't have to put the temperature at 76 degrees. You can put it at 80. It's controllable, your expenses. Yep. All right. That's good. In this chapter also talks about the inventory system, the supply chain, but we already talked about that on Thursday. Yeah, so if you weren't here on Thursday, go back and pick that up on the podcast. All right. Anything else in this chapter? All right. Well, hold on. Before we get out of here, tell me what kind of food you like. Who eats pizza? Who doesn't eat pizza? Why don't you eat pizza? It's just a health choice. Right. How many of you try to be gluten-free now that I've passed out all the gluten in the world in this goldfish bag? Does anybody in here try to be gluten-free? Yeah. And that gluten, I've been learning a lot about gluten. My daughter's a nutritionist. She's got me really backing off of my gluten. Thus, you're getting all the goldfish and things. But, yeah, you might want to be cognizant about that. That's got some real challenges in it. You agree? Yeah. You feel better, don't you? Oh, it's incredible what nutrition and healthy choices in food does for your emotions and your health. Yeah, I encourage you to think about that now. Very good. Okay, we've got a few extra minutes, and from time to time I like to talk about emotional intelligence. Are you familiar with the term? Not because I mentioned it, but are you familiar with the term otherwise? Okay, what is emotional intelligence? Somebody help us. This will change your world. Yes, ma'am, in the back. Yeah, to regulate, control your emotions during a situation. Mia? One more time. I'm having a little trouble hearing you. Self-awareness, exactly right. Who you are. How do you react, right, when things go on? And so, yes, sir. Yep. Very good point, too. We're looking at how other people, if you say something, how does somebody else react? Or if you do something, can you project or predict how somebody else might react to that? That can be very helpful in conversation. All right. Why is emotional intelligence important? It's important, number one, because it will bring you much more peace and productivity in your life. That's the first reason you should look at it. The second reason is because the studies have shown that up to 80% of your success in an organization today is going to depend upon your emotional intelligence rather than your intellect and your skill set. Up to 80%, you think about that. That is big. All right? So I want you to spend time thinking about emotional intelligence. And the ladies just shared with us, there are 4 main components, and we just heard about 2 of them. Self-awareness. What type of reactions do I typically use today? Yeah, when things go wrong. And self-regulation. Well, if things do get challenging, can I manage that? Right? So I've given you a couple of examples, I think, haven't I? Didn't we talk about this a little bit at the very beginning? About driving? Did I ask you about a baby not getting their way? How many of you have seen a baby not get their way? And what does a baby do when they don't get their way? They cry and throw a fit, right? How many of you know friends or adults that do the exact same thing when they don't get their way? Okay? Do you see that that is a lack of emotional intelligence, right? That's an inability to put things in context. Context is crucial for emotional intelligence. Yes. If you wake up in the morning and your alarm failed to go off and you realize you're going to be an hour late to work, is that a challenge? It is. But if you get upset and scream and cry and throw the clock, is that going to help you? No. Let's put it into context. Okay, you're going to be an hour late to work. But does that mean you're sick and never going to be able to work again? Does that mean you have cancer? Could things be far worse? Yes. So putting things into context helps us regulate our emotions, right? Let's go back. Let me give you another example. You leave here today and you go to the workplace, or you go to your sorority house or fraternity house, and you walk in and 3 of your brothers, sisters, or co-workers are whispering, giggling, and laughing, and you walk in and there's dead silence. What's the first thing that goes through your mind? Yeah. How many of you, we're all thinking they're talking about you, right? How big does our ego have to be to think that out of 6 billion people in the world, those 3 people have nothing better to do than to talk about you? And yet, where does our egocentric mind take us? That it's about us, you see? And that gets us in trouble. Because how do you spend the rest of your day then? Yeah, you go into your CSI mode, and you send a text to one of them, you go, "Hey, Sally, saw you guys laughing it up in there. What was that about?" Trying to surreptitiously figure out what they were saying, right? And it wrecks your whole day because you get paranoid and then you're not productive. It's the same thing in the car, right? Because you thought it was about you. In the car, driving down the freeway. I asked you this before. Somebody cuts you off on the freeway. What's your first reaction? No sign language, please. You honk, you get angry. Why? Because why? Because you took it personally. If you want to learn to be more emotionally intelligent, learn not to take things personally. It's not about you. It's not about you. People with higher levels of emotional intelligence, they filter what goes on in their life through an objective, authentic lens, not an egocentric lens. They know that those 3 people have better things to do than to talk about them. And even if those 3 people are talking about them, does it matter? Can you stop people from talking about you? No, the only thing you need to worry about is when people stop talking about you. If people aren't talking about you, what are you doing? Nothing. Make that shift. Now back to the car. If you don't react to that person that cuts you off, what happened? Nothing happened. You go on with your peace. You go on with your productivity. You damn sure don't chase them down and get arrested. Do you see how that saved you already? Driving is a perfect metaphor for life. Give me an example. Driving, let me put it a different way, is a perfect metaphor for people's personalities. Give me an example. Are you driving that phone someplace? Now remember, we got a deal in here. I'm going to make you write a paper next time. Are you good? You're not going to like it. Mia, enlighten us. You can. How many of you like to stay in your own lane in life? No? Yeah, you like to stay in your own lane. You stay in your own lane and drive. I bet you're a peaceful driver, aren't you, Mia? You don't get upset. You don't get angry, right? Yeah. How many of you speed up at a yellow light? Raise your hand. Yeah. Because time is important to you. You got a type A personality, I'll bet, don't you? You go through the yellow lights, you got type A personality? Am I right? Okay. How many of you get upset? Oh, you got another one? Yes. How many of you stop and become self-aware at the intersection? You go, oh, look at that lady next to me, singing her lungs out next to me, right? Putting makeup on. She shouldn't be doing that. We judge people. That's a nasty car. Why don't you wash that? Right? We do that. How many of you use a blinker? If you don't use a blinker, what does that say about you? You don't care about others. What's a blinker for? Is a blinker for you? No, it's to let everybody else know what you intend to do, right? So you need to realize that you're being a little egocentric. Actually, you're being a lot egocentric by not using a blinker when you drive. Do you see that? Now, what happens if you're out on the road and you yell and scream at somebody because they do something you don't like? What kind of personality is that? A scary one. Because you're going to create a fight, you're going to create a war, and you're trying to control who? Somebody other than you. Who's the only person you can control? You. So, if you're trying to control everybody else, you need to take a look at yourself and create some self-awareness and ask yourself why. And it's almost always because your ego is in the way, right? Is it your job to teach other people how to drive? If you want that as your job, join the DPS or join the Houston Police Force, but that's not your job. How many of you, when somebody's trying to get over, you speed up so they can't get in? I know some of you do, you just don't want to admit it. Think about the type of personality that does that. It's your ego. You're thinking, oh my gosh, they're going to get in front of me. And you're taking it personally. Or when somebody cuts you off, if you get angry, you are taking it personally. If you want to read a book that will help you transition to a different type of personality, and I encourage you to if you're getting upset on the roadway, is read the book called The Four Agreements. The Four Agreements by Miguel Ruiz. It's a really good book. And it will help you to learn to not take things personally. And it will help you to not make assumptions or judgments about people. If you want to have a more peaceful life, stop making judgments about people. All right, just some thoughts around emotional intelligence. But let's apply this. Let's drive differently. How many of you would like to be more peaceful and productive in your life? Well, there you go. It starts with driving. It starts with not taking things personally. How many of you have realized that if you're not in a hurry, you don't react to people that drive around you? It's when you're in a hurry is when the stress drives it. So be more mindful of that. But the more organized you are, the more time you'll give yourself. And the less you will react on the roadway if you have time. How many of you have completely eliminated texting and driving from your life? Okay. We're going to do that this semester, right? Okay. Save your life. Do you realize that texting and driving is incredibly selfish? Do you see that? Drinking and driving. Right, if you're going to go out drinking with your friends, what do you need to plan for? Uber, designated driver, and you have to realize that driving isn't the only danger that comes from getting drunk. You get that? We don't make good choices when alcohol enters our body. You just don't. We've proven it time and time again in society. That's why we have laws that say you can't do those things. Okay? So just be mindful of these things as you're going through your time at the university. And I would encourage you to study emotional intelligence, try to practice it, learn about it, and you'll learn more about it in different classes. I spend 2 days on it in the leadership class that I take, and I think others do as well. But you shouldn't wait till then. Study it, learn it. It will really help you. There's all kinds of information on the web. Okay, some of you owe papers for today. When you're walking out, hand those to Osese. It's been a great class. Thank you. Good luck on Thursday. I think you're really going to get a lot of information. And Tuesday will be on chapter 8. Thank you. If you have my goldfish, bring them back. The next class will be appreciative. Thank you, sir. Are there any left in there?
Yeah, there's some.
Okay. Yeah, don't bring me a bag with one goldfish in it.
Thank you.
Thank you, and great stuff in class today. Thank you. Hey, Mr. Crowley, how you doing, brother? Wait, is that it? Oh, there's more. Yes, sir.
My old one got brought in
Yeah, just let Osese know. Right? Yeah. Well, you have the paper?
I have.
You've written it,
Yeah,
but you had it printed out. Well, email it to her this morning. Can you do that? Just email it to her and then bring a hard copy on Thursday.
It's already in I just have.
Oh, okay. Then just let her know that then. Okay? Oh, everybody brought it back. Very cool.